Alright travelers, it's time to dive into the brand new Genshin Impact version 6.1 tier list. With the Luna 2 update shaking things up, we've gone through every 5-star and 4-star character to see who's still dominating the meta, and who might have slipped down a tier or two. Whether you're hunting for the strongest main DPS, the most reliable sub-DPS, or a solid support to round out your team, we've got you covered. We've rated every character based on their C0 performance, so no constellations, no crazy whale builds, just raw power and practicality. And since the meta changes faster than you can spend your Primogems, we're keeping this guide updated daily. Stick around to find out which characters are truly worth your pulls in version 6.1, and who might be taking a little break from the spotlight. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking characters in Genshin Impact. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, main DPS, Freminette, Ningguang, Razor, Deya, Xinyan, and Aloy. Sub DPS, Xinyan, Traveler Geo, Amber, Traveler Anemo, and Traveler Hydro. Support, Noelle, Chongyun, Lisa, and Xinyan. You know that feeling when you pull a new character and think, maybe this one will finally carry me through Spiral Abyss? And then, 10 minutes later, you realize you've just adopted another D-rank dreamer? Yeah, we've all been there. Let's talk about the Genshin Impact heroes who try their best, bless their hearts, but sometimes effort just isn't enough. Let's start with Freminette, the little diver who's having an identity crisis. He can be a cryo main damage dealer or a physical one, depending on how you build him. Sounds flexible, right? Well, until you realize he's a 4-star character trying to punch in the same weight class as 5 stars. His numbers just don't add up, and even though he can perform decently, he'll need a whole support group of buffers cheering him on to make a splash. Then there's Ningguang, our elegant Geo Queen who deserves more love, and maybe fewer Primogems spent on her constellations. She can deal solid Geo damage using her normal and charged attacks, but to make her shine, you'll basically need to invest your entire resin budget. At lower constellations, she's fine. At higher ones, she becomes fabulous. But who has that kind of luck with 4-star banners? Moving on to Razor, the wolf boy who really just wants to swing his sword in peace. His elemental burst gives him that satisfying mix of electro and physical damage, along with consistent superconduct reactions. But in the grand scheme of things, his damage ceiling is, well, more like a damage attic. Still, he's reliable, simple to play, and perfect if you want to feel like an electro-barbarian on caffeine. Deya, one of the most misunderstood characters in Genshin Impact. She looks like she's about to melt the entire battlefield, but then her elemental skill and burst show up late to the party with low damage and a massive energy bill. Without multiple buffs and high investment, she struggles to keep up. She really needs more constellations to perform properly. But let's be honest, who's risking that many pulls after her first banner? And then there's Xinyan, the rock and roll pyro queen. Her elemental burst can hit like a truck if you build her for physical damage, but her scaling is a mess. You either stack attack or defense, and whichever you pick, the other stat stares at you from across the artifact screen in disappointment. She can be fun, but she's also a masterclass in split scaling pain. Oh, Aloy, our favorite free crossover guest from another universe. She can buff her normal attack damage when her bomblets actually hit. But getting that to happen feels like trying to land a headshot with a blindfold. And since she has no constellations, she's forever stuck at her base potential. It's like Genshin invited her to Teyvat and then forgot to give her a proper seat at the table. Now let's slide into the sub-damage dealer section, starting with Xinyan again. Yes, she's back, and still trying her best. Her elemental skill offers some weak off-field pyro damage over time, but it's about as consistent as Timeus's alchemy results. At Constellation 2, she does get guaranteed critical hits with her burst, which opens the door for quick swap builds. Still, it's a small win in a big fiery struggle. The Geo Traveler deserves a slow clap. Their elemental skill actually deals decent damage, and you can even use it to block enemies. Add in a Constellation 4 that boosts burst recharge rate, and you've got, well, a slightly more annoying wall builder. They're not bad, just painfully average, like ordering plain bread at a fancy restaurant. As for Amber, the OG Pyro Queen who taught us all what taunting enemies meant back in the day. Her elemental skill can distract mobs, and her burst applies some area of effect pyro damage. At Constellation 6, She even gives party-wide buffs. So, yes, technically, she can help the team, but let's be real. Most players stopped using her after Mondstadt's tutorial ended. Finally, we've got Noelle, Chongyun, Lisa, and one more round of Xinyan holding the support section together with duct tape. Noelle can heal and shield, but she needs to be on field to do it, and her cooldowns feel like they last an eternity. Chongyun adds cryo infusion and attack speed for melee characters, which is great if your team isn't allergic to cryo reactions. Lisa lowers enemy defense, which sounds good on paper but rarely feels impactful. And Xinyan once again offers a decent shield if she hits enough enemies. Basically, this support squad is like that group project team where everyone shows up, but nobody knows what to do. In short, these D-rank characters aren't useless. They're just situationally challenged. With enough love, investment, and a bit of stubbornness, you can make any of them work. But for most players, they're the lovable bench warmers of Teyvat, waiting for that one patch where Hoyoverse suddenly decides, hey, maybe it's redemption arc time. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, main DPS, King, Noelle, Eula, Mizuki, Yanfei, Heizu, Klee, and Kaveh. Sub DPS, Kachina, Dehya, Lisa, Chongyun, and Sayu. Support, Mika, Sayu, Dahlia, Kichi, Barbara, Traveler Electro, Rosaria, Candace, and Dory. You know that weird middle ground in Genshin Impact, where a character isn't bad enough to bench forever, but also not quite good enough to brag about? Yeah, that's the C-rank zone. These are the folks who show up to the fight, put in some effort, and then quietly let your 5 stars finish the job. Let's take a look at these solid but not spectacular heroes who live comfortably in the middle of the pack. Starting strong with King, our resident lightning flash. For the longest time, she was everyone's first 5-star heartbreak, until the Dendro element came along and gave her the glow-up she deserved. With an aggravate or physical build, Keqing can now actually keep up with the cool kids. She's still not breaking the meta, but she's finally earned her place as a fast, flashy main damage dealer who doesn't need pity pulls to perform. Next, we've got Noelle, the maid who refuses to take a break. Balancing attack and defense, she can deal great sustained damage. And with her 6th constellation unlocked, she turns into an absolute tank with a claymore. She's self-sufficient too. She heals, shields, and smashes everything around her. Basically, Noelle is that one person in every group project who ends up doing everyone else's work. Now let's talk about Eula, the queen of one-shot highlights. Her elemental burst makes up most of her total damage, and when it hits, oh, it hits. Especially when you've got superconduct reactions active. But if her burst doesn't land or fails to crit, you'll feel your entire soul leave your body. Eula's gameplay is like gambling. High risk, high reward, and sometimes just heartbreaking. Mizuki, on the other hand, is your chill Anemo driver who enjoys being the calm breeze in chaos. She's great in swirl teams and can even buff the team's swirl damage while providing some sustain. However, her elemental burst limits how long she can stay effective off-field, and she can't use normal attacks during her elemental skill. Still, with solid constellations and flexible utility, Mizuki is the dependable type. Not flashy, but reliable. Then we've got Yanfei, Mondstadt's finest legal expert who moonlights as a walking fireball machine. She dishes out solid pyro damage through normal and charged attacks, but she burns through stamina faster than a traveler sprinting across Sumeru. Her first constellation helps manage that a bit, but like any 4-star, she'll always be slightly overshadowed by the 5-star pyro elites. Still, she gets bonus points for looking adorable while vaporizing enemies. Heizu brings some serious personality to the Catalyst user lineup. He's a melee fighter who channels his inner detective to literally punch the air with Anemo energy. His elemental skill hits hard, especially with swirl reactions, but his other damage sources don't keep up as much. He's best as a quick swap nuker or a driver for Viridescent Venerer setups. Basically, he's Genshin's version of Short King energy. Small, confident, and explosive. Klee, the pyro menace of Mondstadt. Her bombs are adorable, right until they blow up in your face. She's a powerhouse with her charged attacks, clearing mobs like it's child's play. But her clunky, stamina-heavy playstyle isn't for everyone. To make her shine, you'll need tight rotations, patience, and probably an emotional support Bennett. She's chaos incarnate, and we love her for it. Kaveh joins the roster as the emotional Dendro architect. He's great at driving bloom reactions and buffing them, but his personal damage is kind of polite. He's more of a team player, enabling others to do the heavy lifting while he looks fabulous doing it. If you enjoy bloom comps and watching explosions of green light everywhere, Kave's your artistic match. Now for the sub-damage dealers, Kachina starts us off strongish. She has okay off-field damage and can use the Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City, a Natlan exclusive artifact set that makes her stand out a bit more. She's not game-changing, but she's a solid pick if you're looking for flexible reaction setups. Meanwhile, Dehya reappears in a better light here. Her off-field pyro application helps set up reactions like Burgeon, but again, she desperately needs constellations to shine. Lisa, Chongyun, and Sayu round out the list with a mix of decent bursts and occasional brilliance. Lisa's AoE Electro Burst, Chongyun's low-cost Ice Nuke, and Sayu's Spin-to-Win Swirl support make them all technically useful, depending on your team's mood. And finally, the support crew, a charming mix of healers, buffers, and emotional support units. Mika is great for boosting physical damage and attack speed, but only a handful of characters can use his buffs properly. Sayu heals everyone by rolling into them like a green bowling ball, while Kichi and Barbara continue their reign as Please Never Die healers. Rosaria and Candace offer rare situational buffs, critical rate and hydro infusion respectively. And Dori exists to make sure your energy never runs out. None of them are meta-defining, but together they form the heart of the functional but funny support squad. So yeah, C-rank characters might not break the leaderboards, but they bring balance, personality, and sometimes pure chaos to your team. They're the middle children of Teyvat, overlooked, underrated, and occasionally amazing when you least expect it. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: main DPS, Tartaglia, Diluc, Ayato, Ganyu, Tignari, Wanderer, Yoimiya, Sethos, Sino, Ifa, and Ito. Sub-DPS, Beidou, Albedo, Kaeya, Traveler Dendro, Lynette, and Zhongli. Support: Yunjin, Sara, Goro, Mizuki, Sigawine, Toma, and Dehya. You ever meet a Genshin character who just barely misses greatness? The kind that makes you think, if only you had a little more damage or a little less clunk. Yeah, welcome to the B-Rank Club, the land of almost meta, and still pretty good if you love them. These are the characters who will absolutely carry you through the overworld, do solid damage in the abyss, and maybe even surprise you. Just don't expect them to solo Raiden Shogun on floor 12. Let's start with Tartaglia, the Riptide Master himself. This Hydro Menace thrives in multi-target fights, spreading Hydro faster than you can say vaporize. He's the best driver for that reaction right now, chaining Hydro marks across entire enemy groups like an artist painting chaos. His only real weakness? That awkward cooldown when his melee stance ends. You either wait it out, or you just stand there looking cool until it's back up. Still, no one floods a battlefield like Child. Then there's Diluc, the original Pyro Daddy. Once the king of DPS, now the wise veteran who still packs a fiery punch. His playstyle revolves around weaving normal attacks and elemental skills, which makes him perfect for triggering vaporized reactions with supports like Xingqiu. His burst has a wide range, low cost, and great scaling, though it does have the bad habit of sending light enemies flying halfway across Teyvat. Classic Diluc, stylish, effective, but a little extra. Ayato, the Hydro Gentleman, brings a refined sort of chaos. After activating his elemental skill, his Hydro-infused normal attacks become a fountain of continuous damage. Then he buffs himself with his burst, turning into a one-man rainstorm. He's smooth, consistent, and a perfect on-field driver for Hydro reactions. You don't need to work too hard with Ayato. He's one of those rare DPS characters who's effective and elegant. Now let's talk about Ganyu, the long-distance murder machine. Her level 2 charge shots melt mobs like butter, and her elemental burst turns the field into a cryo rainstorm. Combine her with Anemo crowd control, and enemies basically cease to exist. The only catch? She takes forever to charge her shots and can be easily interrupted. Ganyu mains know the struggle. One stray arrow or slap from a Hilichurl, and the entire setup falls apart. Tignari is next, and this Forest Ranger is all about charged attacks and Dendro reactions. He deals big damage through the spread reaction, and his taunt can distract enemies just long enough for you to line up another shot. He's quick, calculated, and plays best when you build around his elemental mastery. If you like bow users who reward precision and timing, Tignari's your guy. Just make sure you can aim. Then we have Wanderer, the floating Anemo gremlin. His normal attacks have great area of effect range and can track targets in midair, which is fun until you get hit by something and crash down like a paper plane. He needs proper supports to shine, especially at low constellations, but when built right, he's a spectacle. Also, exploring the world while flying over everything never gets old. Style points: 10 out of 10. Stability: 3 out of 10. Yoimiya comes in hot, literally. She's a pyro archer who specializes in infusing her normal attacks with flames. Her scaling is strong, but she desperately needs supports who can help her resist interruptions and speed up her attacks. Once you give her that, though, she's a fireworks show of single-target destruction. Perfect for bosses, slightly awkward for mobs, but always a joy to watch. Sethos and Cyno both bring their own brand of electro-chaos. Sethos can either spam charged attacks or go wild with normal attacks using his burst. Your choice, your risk. His numbers aren't huge since he's a 4-star, but his flexibility makes him fun. Cyno, on the other hand, demands full commitment. His elemental burst locks him in, drains energy fast, and punishes switching out. But once he's rolling, the Dendro reactions start popping like fireworks. Just don't get interrupted. Ever. And then there's Itto, our lovable himbo of the Geo Nation. His charged attacks hit like trucks, and once his elemental burst kicks in, he becomes a claymore tornado of destruction. The downside? Itto needs everything. Energy, artifacts, weapon, team synergy, all perfectly tuned to truly pop off. But when you do, he's hilarious and powerful in equal measure. Big rocks, big damage, big energy. Now for the sub-DPS lineup, Beidou, Albedo, Kaeya, Traveler Dendro, Lynette, and Zhongli, all solid backups with a few quirks. Beidou's Counter-Strike Burst can fry entire enemy groups but costs a ton of energy. Albedo's Flower Field gives passive geo damage but can vanish when bosses sneeze. Kaeya's Icy Support is consistent and fast. Traveler Dendro adds reaction flexibility, and Lynette is an okay Viridescent Venerer debuffer with Flare. Zhongli, meanwhile, brings that petrifying burst that still feels so satisfying, even if his pillar breaks faster than your patience in the abyss. And rounding out our B-rank supports, we've got a colorful crew. Yoon Jin makes normal attack users go wild with damage buffs, especially in Rainbow Element teams. Sarah boosts attack, but only becomes truly great at her 6th constellation. Guru is the rock-solid support for defense-scaling Geo teams, while Toma brings pyro shields that get better with every hit. Sigawine and Mizuki both heal and sustain, but need more uptime to feel reliable. And of course, Dehya makes her grand return, offering damage mitigation and near immunity to interruption. She might not top charts, but she'll make sure your team doesn't crumble under pressure. So yeah, the B-rank crew may not define the meta, but they define reliability. They're dependable, fun, and often stylish, the kind of characters who make your team feel complete. In Teyvat, not everyone can be broken, but these guys, they're proof that balanced can still mean brilliant. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: main DPS, Alhaitham, Navia, Ayaka, Ryothasli, Clorinde, Liney, Hu Tao, Xiao, and Raiden. Sub DPS, Kiori, Yae Miko, Aino, Rosaria, Venti, Sucrose, Ganyu, Mona, Kole, Traveler Pyro, Kokomi, and Toma. Support, Mona, Jean, Lanyan, Kokomi, Faruzan, Venti, Diona, Yao Yao, Charlotte, Layla, Kirara, and Shinobu. You ever look at your Genshin Impact team and realize, wow, these characters are actually carrying me? Welcome to the A-rank zone, the land of heavy hitters who don't need to break the meta to prove their worth. They're strong, flexible, and most importantly, reliable. These are the ones who can make Spiral Abyss cry without needing every artifact to roll crit damage. Let's talk about the MVPs that sit right below the God tier legends. First up, Alhaitham, the walking proof that brain equals brawn. This guy applies Dendro faster than you can say Hyper Bloom, and his reaction damage is absolutely ridiculous. He's got great area of effect coverage, his overall team damage is top tier, and the best part, he doesn't need a PhD in artifact farming to perform. Alhaitham's gameplay is sleek, satisfying, and just the right mix of smug and smart. Then there's Navia, the Geo powerhouse who said, "Who needs Zhongli when you've got a gun umbrella?" Her elemental skill damage is front-loaded, meaning it hits hard and fast. She can one-shot mid-level enemies like it's nothing and chunk bosses every rotation. She's also refreshingly flexible, not stuck in mono Geo like others before her. Just remember that burst of damage drops off over time, so if the fight drags on, Navia might start to sweat a little. Ayaka, the graceful cryo princess, continues to reign supreme for players who love precision. Her cryo infusion from sprinting is basically permanent, letting her glide through enemies like an ice ballerina. And when her elemental burst lands, it's a snowstorm of pure destruction. With high investment, Ayaka can rival even the most broken characters in the game. But fair warning, she demands dedication, patience, and maybe a few 100,000 Mora. Next up, the classy Rhea Thesley, Teyvat's most fashionable brawler. He's amazing in single-target scenarios and shines in melt or freeze teams. His problem? He needs his first constellation to fix his kit and stop him from clashing with certain healers. Without it, he's a bit of a diva. Still, when he's built right, his close combat style is fluid, punchy, and incredibly satisfying to watch. Clorinde brings the cool-headed duelist energy to Fontaine. Her gameplay feels snappy, and she's got solid self-healing, perfect for overworld combat and exploration. The catch? Her personal damage depends heavily on team synergy, and at Constellation 0, she doesn't have interruption resistance. Still, few characters feel as stylish as she does when chaining her attacks like a lightning strike. Linny is the theater kid of Genshin, dramatic, powerful, and just a little bit unpredictable. His damage is excellent both in single-target and area-of-effect fights, and his passive talent helps him shine even without reactions in mono-pyro teams. But all that flair comes with a cost. One interruption, and your perfectly planned combo goes poof. So bring a shield or prepare to rage. Hu Tao, on the other hand, needs no introduction. She's the queen of pyro and the master of living on the edge. Her elemental skill sacrifices HP for massive pyro-infused charged attack damage, and with her first constellation, she becomes a non-stop crit machine. She's a risk-taker, a heartbreaker, and the reason half the player base still hoards Crimson Witch artifacts like treasure. Zhao, the adeptus of angsty jumping, continues to deliver airborne chaos. His elemental burst turns him into a dive-bombing menace, trading hit points for massive attack boosts. He's devastating when supported by good healers and buffers, but without them, he'll spend more time fainting than fighting. Still, when Zhao's on the field, every fight feels like an anime finale. And finally, Raiden Shogun, the Electrostorm herself. Her elemental burst lets her go on-field and unleash absurd amounts of damage in just 7 seconds. Add in her second constellation, which lets her ignore enemy defense, and she becomes an unstoppable force of pure voltage. Even without constellations, she's a top-tier powerhouse who can turn any team into a lightning show. Of course, what's an A-rank list without their trusty support and sub-damage dealer partners? Yae Miko, Venti, Sucrose, Kyori, Kokomi, and Mona lead the charge as reliable off-field heroes. Whether it's Venti sucking everything into a black hole, Yae setting up turrets that zap everything in sight, or Kokomi keeping the team alive while still doing damage, they're the glue that holds the A-rank dream teams together. And on the support side, Jean, Farazan, Diona, Layla, and Yao Yao prove that heals and buffs can be just as satisfying as nuking bosses. So yeah, A-rank characters are the sweet spot of Genshin Impact. They might not break the game, but they'll absolutely break enemies. They're strong, dependable, and stylish, making every fight feel smooth, flashy, and just the right amount of chaotic. If the S-rank are the gods of Teyvat, then these are the legends that keep the world spinning. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, main DPS, Varisa, Flynn's, Nefer, Mualani, Kinich, Chaska, and Gaming. Sub DPS, Nahida, Emily, Raiden, Fischl, Nilu, Shinobu, and Auroron. Support, Escoffier, Chevruz, Nahida, Sucrose, Zhongli, Raiden, Xianyun, Baizhu, Inefa, and Shenhe. You ever meet those Genshin Impact characters who just radiate "I own this battlefield" energy? The ones who don't just fight, they perform? Yeah, welcome to the S-Rank Club, where the true monsters of Teyvat casually erase enemies before your coffee even cools down. These are the heavy hitters, the reaction masters, and the absolute must-picks for anyone chasing those juicy damage numbers. Let's start with Veresa, the new queen of plunging. She doesn't need fancy amplifying reactions to dominate the field. Her base damage is already absurd. And the best part? She's smooth to play. No awkward setups, no frame-perfect rotations, just clean, elegant destruction. Toss her in with easy-to-find buffers like Ian-san or Chevreuse, and suddenly, even your laziest gameplay session feels like a highlight reel. Then there's Flynn's, the lunar-charged menace. This guy thrives with just one Hydro unit on his team, and even free-to-play players can make him shine with Ino. He's burst-reliant, sure, but his low energy cost makes that barely a problem. The catch? He's a little picky with teammates. His best support options are limited to lunar-charged or nod-cry characters. But once he's in his element, Flynn's lights up the field like a disco ball made of electro damage. Nefer brings the style and substance combo for Lunar Bloom comps. She's got this unique way of weaving Bloom reactions into her kit, generating seeds of deceit that crank her damage up to 11 when consumed. Put her in a team with Ascendant Gleam activators like Llama or Ino, and she turns into a living floral explosion. The downside? Her teams are kind of locked right now, but once that roster expands, expect her to climb even higher. Mualani is for those who love immediate satisfaction. Her front-loaded damage smacks enemies in both single-target and AoE scenarios, and she absolutely shines in vaporized teams. Oh, and did I mention she's amazing for exploration? She might just be the most stylish way to clear a domain and grab that chest you missed. Just keep in mind that Sharky's Bite can miss, which is equal parts hilarious and heartbreaking. Now let's talk about Kinich, the parkour champion of Natlan. He's a beast in Burning and Burgeon teams, with a playstyle so mobile you might get dizzy. His grappling hook turns exploration into a playground, but in combat, let's just say uneven terrain can make things interesting. Keep him in his element though, and you'll be spamming scale spiker cannons like it's a fireworks festival. Chaska is the definition of versatility. She's a rainbow DPS, meaning she can convert her damage into pyro, hydro, electro, or cryo. That makes her a dream for creative team builders. Plus, she can fly, which is priceless for exploring Natlan's wild terrain. Just don't expect her to clear big groups quickly. Her bullets split between targets, so she's more of a single-target sniper than an AoE queen. And of course, we can't forget Gaming, the overachieving 4-star who refuses to act like one. With his plunging attacks and high damage scaling, he outperforms expectations, especially at Constellation 6. The catch? He's glued to his elemental burst for big numbers, so if it's on cooldown, you might as well start breakdancing to pass the time. Still, for a character of his rarity, he's punching way above his weight. Moving into the sub-damage dealers, let's start with Nahida, the literal definition of must-have. Her elemental skill deals massive off-field dendro damage, and her second constellation just breaks the game in the best way possible. She's the heart of every dendro team, spreading that green glow of doom across the map like a benevolent goddess of reactions. Emily deserves a gold medal for being the ultimate burning enabler. Pair her with a pyro unit, and she'll keep the fire going forever. Her elemental skill uptime is nearly 100%, giving you non-stop burning damage and reaction potential. Raiden and Fischl bring the electro synergy, the former doubling as a hyper bloom machine, while the latter keeps Oz zapping everything in sight for eternity. Add Nilou or Shinobu for some bloom chaos, and you've got an elemental orchestra. Finally, let's talk about the S-rank support dream team, the glue that holds the meta together. Escoffier and Chevreuse dominate cryo and overloaded comps with their resistance shred and healing, while Sucrose swirls everything into a blender of boosted elemental mastery. Zhongli remains the gold standard of shielding, and Raiden doubles as both a battery and a burst buff queen. Meanwhile, Xianyun enables the soaring plungers, Baizhu and Inefa provide reliable healing and shielding, and Shenhe continues to be the icy MVP for every cryo team in existence. This lineup doesn't just support, it elevates. So yeah, these S-rank legends are the reason the Spiral Abyss exists. They're the damage dealers, enablers, and protectors that make the rest of your roster feel like side characters in their own story. You don't need them to enjoy Genshin Impact, but once you've seen what they can do, it's hard to imagine playing without them. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Main DPS Mavuika, Skirk, Nuvolette, and Arlecchino. Sub DPS Furina, Yelan, Escoffier, Lauma, Inefa, Mavuika, Xingqiu, and Xiangling. Support Furina, Zilonin, Bennett, Ianson, Kazuha, Citlali, and Lauma. You know that moment in Genshin Impact when a character comes along and just makes you stop playing for a second because, wow, they actually feel broken? Welcome to the S+ Rank Club, where the characters aren't just strong. They redefine what can carry the team actually means. These are the ones that make your 5 stars look like underlings, the reaction kings and queens, and honestly, the reason the Spiral Abyss exists. Let's kick things off with Mavuika, the pyro powerhouse who basically eats vaporize and melt reactions for breakfast. Her elemental burst scales absurdly high, meaning she can flex as on-field, off-field, or quick swap without missing a beat. Exploration? She's basically a Natlin Swiss Army knife. Everything you want from an adventurer rolled into one. If you haven't tried her yet, you're missing the kind of chaos that makes domains feel like playtime. Skirk is next, and let me tell you, she's like the dance of a hurricane. Paired with Escoffier in freeze comps, she's outright insane. And even without him, she's S-tier enough to make people reconsider their team building. Her fluid combat and easy-to-use controls make her a blast in the overworld, and her exploration quirk is just icing on the cake. Basically, she's the character that makes you look good even when you're not that good. Nuvolette comes in as the self-sufficient juggernaut. His charged attack damage is constant and deadly, making him feel like a one-man army. The first constellation removes most of his weaknesses, which is great because he already doesn't really need help. If you like feeling overpowered while sipping your in-game tea, Nuvolette is your guy. Then there's Arlecchino, the high-risk, high-reward Pyro Queen. Her normal attacks are swift, AoE-friendly, and hit hard, while her rotations are simple once you learn them. She shines in single-target AoE and overworld content, but fair warning, her gameplay can be unforgiving for early game players who aren't ready for the chaos she brings. Now, let's talk about sub-damage dealers. Furina can apply Hydro off-field almost indefinitely thanks to her cooldowns, providing consistent reaction damage. She might not outpace Xingqiu or Yelan in Hydro application, but she's reliable and scalable, which is a huge plus for long fights. Yelan, on the other hand, turns sub-DPS into an art form. Her elemental burst sets up Hydro reactions while buffing your active characters, and her elemental skill groups enemies for optimal damage. If you want Hydro dominance, she's basically a one-way ticket. Escoffier doesn't mess around. With high off-field damage, freeze specialization, resistance shred, and healing, he's a core part of any freeze comp. Plug-and-play style makes him easy to slot into teams, and while he shares some niche limitations with Chevreuse, his utility is undeniable. Lauma doubles as personal DPS and Dendro application, making her a must for Lunar Bloom teams. She's consistent, reliable, and makes Bloom reactions actually feel like they matter. Inefa shines in the Lunar Charged reaction niche, providing superb electro application and defensive utility through her shielding. She's flexible, able to contribute damage, reactions, and protection all at once. Mavuika returns here too, this time highlighting her off-field Pyro Circle that targets all enemies in range. Quick swap? Check scaling? Check decimation of opponents? Double check. Xingqiu continues to prove why he's the Hydro support king. His elemental skill and burst offer damage reduction, interruption resistance, and off-field Hydro application, with a touch of healing at the end. He's one of the top characters for enabling Vaporize or Bloom setups for your main DPS. And Xiangling, the AoE Pyro Queen, snapshots buffs and dishes frequent consistent damage, especially when paired with other Pyro units who can battery her burst. Together, these two ensure your elemental reactions never take a day off. Finally, let's give a round of applause to the S+ rank support squad. Furina can heal, buff, and even enable new HP-based playstyles. Zilonin brings universal resistance shred and vertical exploration ease. Bennett is the classic healer and ATK buffer combo. Ianson rivals him with her mobile ATK buffs and healing. Kazuha swirls the battlefield into a party-wide elemental DMG bonanza, while Citlali and Lauma provide niche elemental RES shred and support for melt, freeze, or bloom teams. Together, these supports don't just help, they redefine what's possible in every team comp. In short, S+ characters aren't just the top tier, They're the definition of fun, dominance, and versatility. Pair them correctly, and every fight becomes a cinematic experience. Miss them? You'll notice. Master them? You might never play Genshin the same way again. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.